everybody. This is Apple Treats, second episode of the fifth season. And we actually planned this episode for a really long time. And finally we are doing this. We have a great guest today, Tatyana, who works at Quartett Mobile. And instead of me describing her role in the company, I'll pass the word to her. And Tatyana, please tell us, what do you do, where do you work, and all the details you want to share.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Tatyana. I am a iOS developer, and currently I'm working in a company which is called Quartett Mobile. It's part of bigger company which is called Quartett, and Quartett is a company who provides software for whole Volkswagen Group.
Oh, nice. And those of you who looked into the title probably understand why we're talking about Volkswagen Group and so on. So yeah, we will be talking about CarPlay in a bit, but before, can you go through your career path? So you're an iOS developer and senior iOS developer at Quartett Mobile, and you have a lot more responsibilities there. But how did you end up being developer? What was the, what inspired you to be a developer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good question. I started coding when I was 19. I was a student, and I had a really long summer holidays, 3 months, and I got bored. My friends, all of them, my friends, already worked, and I was alone. And I asked myself what I can do. And one of my friends suggested me one nice course in the YouTube. It was Alexei Skuturenko course, iOS development, and I started just for fun. And now I'm here. I really like this course, and I started working like an iOS developer after that.
That's actually cool. I think in one of our past episodes, we were talking about the development courses, and one of those was probably you've heard about Stanford's course as well, CS 193P, which is, I think, one of the greatest ever in the community, and it's free and so on and so on. But so you learned the development, but I also know that you are not just the software developer, right? You also you know how to build things, like real things. Can you share something about that?
Yeah, so I worked on apps in healthcare, education, and finance, but for the last 5 years, I'm mostly working with Bluetooth and MFI devices. So I'm super close to software and hardware, and it's my main stack for now. So I really like that to communicate with device, to make it possible to sense, to receive some data and control device. Yeah.
So speaking of Bluetooth and speaking of the communicating with the devices, do you have anything what are the specifics of that work? When we develop apps which are just work on the device, that's usually it's easy to build and kind of easy to test. There are not too many things you need to think about. Do you have something about building software which communicates with some external devices?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, it's my main stack. As usual, I'm making some frameworks, which is communication frameworks, and we use different protocols for communication. For example, it depends on which kind of device we have, and but for iOS development, it's mostly Bluetooth Low Energy and EA accessory, of course. Yeah.
Interesting. With these devices, and especially now when we have this the whole world of devices which we wear, devices which the smart home devices or whatever, one of the things I think which is important is the security of those devices. Did you have a chance to look into that, how to make that communication secure, or Like, do you generally think that we are living in a secure world? Like, I mean, you know how the devices communicate with each other. Like, do you think that's okay, or like, is it something we should be worrying about?
So, of course, security is really super important for Bluetooth communication and also with communication with MFI devices. So, we have different ways how we can make it secured and safe. For example, for Bluetooth devices, it's a really popular way to use key exchange before pairing and also use encryption. But with MFI, if we are talking about MFI devices, we have the special chips who help us to make security. Yeah.
Speaking of MFI, I assume you won't be able to tell us much. And yeah, for those who are listening, some questions probably will be left unanswered due to NDAs, and we all should respect that thing. But speaking of MFI, well, I mean, we already know that App Store reviews are a kind of sometimes could be hard. Let's put it that way. Like we need to build an app which will pass the review. We need to make sure that we follow all of the rules properly and so on. But considering the MFI, is it like again? From what you can tell, like, is it harder? Like, does Apple support the vendors in a way, like, to pass their certification or the review of the app which works with those devices? Like, is it much harder than the regular apps, or like from your perspective
No.
as a developer?
I could say if we are talking about MFI devices, to be honest, I didn't face any problems with the Apple review for this type because as usual, when we develop some software, hardware is done and also whole certification is done. And so I didn't tell you something about this, unfortunately.
Right.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. But you did participate in the process, like when you have the device which is being certified and also the application which works with the device. And yeah, that's. I think not too many of us have that experience, but I would say that's probably really interesting and like again new spheres of work which engineers probably would want to participate in.
Yeah. On my previous, for example, on my previous project, I worked with Bluetooth headphones, and there we have certification also for hardware and for chips, and we made it, but we made it in advance, of course.
Interesting. And well, we can talk about the devices and so on. And again, probably not too much again due to NDAs. But let's maybe focus on the topic of the episode. And well, episode is titled iOS in the car, and probably some of our listeners might remember that CarPlay initially was presented as iOS in the car many years ago. I actually even do not exactly remember when it was announced, but now we have CarPlay, like, which is one of two options for connecting your smartphone to the car. Like, we have CarPlay or we have Android Auto, but let's just talk about CarPlay for now. What is that? Like, when we see that like interface on your car dashboard, like, can you go through the CarPlay specifics, like how it actually works from the user perspective and maybe from the developer perspective, like when we build CarPlay apps, how they actually work?
Yeah, of course. So as you already mentioned, CarPlay lets or give you opportunity to use your phone during the driving and use some apps. It's really nice mechanism. So the logic is that you have a car screen and you could see some apps which is added on this car screen, and you can use them safety and easy. So How it works also if you want to make some, for example, let's imagine that you want to make some app which you want to add in CarPlay. For this, you should make a special file which is called entitlements and add it in your project just to display something on the CarPlay screen. These entitlements you should agree with Apple, of course, and after that it will be possible to show something. And then after when you showed your app on the CarPlay screen, you can decide what you want to do next. Show some, I don't know, maps, music, or some custom UI, or if you want to make some car control stuff, then it's another story.
Right. Well, and speaking of these apps, when you apply for that entitlement, there is a limited list of the app categories. Like you cannot build just any app and put that to the dashboard of your car.
Yeah.
And but it's not just that. I mean, yeah, there are apps like I can't recall the whole list of categories, but essentially, like you can play media, like podcasts or music. You can have some navigation, and I think like recently they added something about like sports. And probably when you drive the car, you definitely need to know the result of your favorite sport. Well, obviously, but let's get back to the development part. So when we build our apps for the iPhone or for the iPad or even for the Mac, we have UIKit, we have Swift UI, we have like a lot of powerful tools. Or I don't know, we can even use Metal to draw everything. But for the CarPlay, is not exactly that, right? Like, how we build the interface for the CarPlay apps?
So you have some templates which you could use for CarPlay, or you could use your custom UI, of course. You could make it, and we also have really nice tool. It's CarPlay Simulator.
Okay.
You could also download it additionally and use, which is nice. Yeah, but still, CarPlay has a lot of troubles.
Yeah. So I'm speaking about the simulator. It's like iOS simulator is actually like pretty okay if you start building your app for the iPhone. When you do something for the Apple TV, it's it's again more or less okay, but there are like more quirks which do not work exactly as they might work on the device. Speaking about the CarPlay simulator, is it like is that tool actually useful, or you still need to test more on actual units?
It depends what you want to test. For example, so long story short, currently I'm working in a project which is called Automaker. This project for CarPlay. For example, if I want to test some UI UX stuff, I can use Simulator, which is nice. If I need to test something, what is, for example, car specific, we have special devices like main units, we call them. It's like some part of vehicle, and also the most important test session we have with real vehicles. And
right.
But it's for my project. For if you just want to create a usual CarPlay app and you don't need additional connection or communication or something else, of course you could use a simulator and it will be enough.
Okay, yeah. So you described that your project communicates with the car, and like let's leave it like separately, but that's why you have to like actually run on the unit which is specific for the car, and also like do the driving test. Probably like you don't drive the car a lot with your laptop connected, but I believe that some people will do. But let's talk about that interface. So you mentioned templates, and that's something which we don't typically see in iOS apps. Like what are those?
So I didn't use it to be honest so much, but it's just as I remember, it's just UI components which you could reuse super easy and fast. yeah, with special UI inside. But again, I didn't use it.
Okay. Yeah. So when I was going through CarPlay development, it was like really interesting that there were a lot of ways on how to build the UI. You had like, I don't know, contact list template essentially, and a contact card template, and you just feed that template with information, and it's being rendered by the unit. And this also like brings my next topic. So we have our iPhone, which can be connected by the wire or wirelessly to the car. And we also have a screen on the car which shows something which iPhone creates. And that means that we have a second screen which is like essentially a CarPlay device. Well, oh, sorry, not the CarPlay, AirPlay device. And as far as I know, I mean, I might be wrong, but I think it's some kind of a version of the AirPlay protocol which also sends some taps back to the iPhone to process. So when you see the image of your like app interface on the CarPlay unit, it's essentially just a screen, and everything is processed on the iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. However, again, I don't know if you work with that, but I know, and I know, like on my personal experience as a user, not as a developer, when you have this wired CarPlay or wireless CarPlay, that might add some limitations on the car. For example, as far as I understand the specification, when you have a wireless CarPlay on your car provides GPS coordinates to the phone. It doesn't run its own chip for the location. Well, at least as far as I understand. And in case of wired connection, it could be both. It could have chip, like GPS chip on the car, or it could use iPhone's chip, and that like could work in a different ways. And that's, again, so it's actually like CarPlay is not just a screen. There are some other units, and probably there is also authentication chip which like protects the communication between the iPhone and the car, and so on and so on. So it's actually really interesting technical thing built on top of that. But like you are being a developer, you created iPhone apps, then you are now creating CarPlay apps, which like, is it harder? Is it easier? Like, again, knowing the limitations, and like we can't do much on that unit, but like your development experience, what is it more interesting? Maybe again, like how would you describe it, the development process?
So I could say development process quite similar to usual iOS development, and yeah, of course, as you mentioned before, we have some limitation, and with the type of connection to CarPlay, and with what we could show and how we can show something. Of course, we have a lot of limitation with the CarPlay, but and if we back to these templates, which you could use from CarPlay, they also have a lot of limitation. So, but in the end, it's usual iOS development, just with some specific guidelines. So you should follow some rules for UI, for example, and you just need to know some specific topic, like how to connect, how to show something, how to register these entitlements, and so on. And for example, everyone, I think, knows that it's not possible to play video on the CarPlay screen. It's not allowed, and we have a lot of examples like limitation, but in the end, it's super similar to just the usual iOS development.
Again, I'm not sure what you can share, but one of the steps of your iOS development process is submission to the App Store. And if your app has a CarPlay component, and by the way, like that means that your app, like you have a regular part of your app which you can run on your iPhone, right? And there is some like part which runs on the screen of your car. Do you know like how does Apple actually test that during the review process, and how like do they like provide some feedback on that?
Yeah. For example, in if you have CarPlay app and you want to provide go through Apple review. For example, if you have, in our case, we have specific components that you should be connected to the vehicle, and yes, Apple checks CarPlay apps more strictly, and they care a lot about safety. You should provide as clear instruction for customers as possible. Also, UI should be super clean and understandable. Also, if in our case, Apple should check how it works with a real device, and yeah. So I could say on my from my experience, Apple review for CarPlay app more harder.
Okay. Yeah, well,
than usual one.
that is expected. Again, considering
Yeah.
the safety, especially like,
Yes.
and like as you mentioned, we can play video on the screen, and that was the deliberate decision in order to make sure that like driver won't be watching the video while they drive somewhere. So that's not because they like wanted to limit something, but rather that was like the deliberate decision. And we will talk a little bit about this video on the screen next, and like again, not how to do that, but rather the news which happened during WWDC. But let's just talk a little bit more about the cars and communications with those cars. So we have CarPlay, and probably, and by the way, as far as I remember, last data in US was showing that 80% of like people who are considering buying new vehicle want to have CarPlay in that vehicle. So that's essentially almost a must-have feature. And some of the electric vendor, like car makers, decided to drop CarPlay support, like namely Tesla, Rivian. And even General Motors on their electric vehicles, they want to use their own, I don't know, like interfaces which somehow connect to the phone. But Ford, for example, and BMW, they still support CarPlay even on their electric cars. But we also have Android Auto. Do you have any experience with that as a user or maybe as a developer? Like, can you share anything about Android Auto? How it's different?
So I tried a little bit Android Auto, like a developer and like a user, and so I could say Android Auto gives more freedom for developer and also for customers. So, but it's less stable than CarPlay, for example. So CarPlay is more strict but more stable.
Interesting. Yeah. And speaking of how it works, it's also the same thing. It's like a second screen for the phone, or like it has anything different in the, I mean, like in the high level architecture.
Yes, in general, it's this like also additional screen, but there are more opportunities. If I'm not mistaken, there you could also check another part, not only main screen, but another parts you also could customize. It depends which version and which vehicle, which device you have.
I've seen something like that, and for example, I think like BMW can show the CarPlay map on your like central on your where are your instruments and everything, and also show something on the main your main media screen. And I think they also do like the navigation clue like signs, like you turn left and the distance to the turn. They also like show on all clusters if you configure that. But there is also CarPlay Ultra, and again, we won't be discussing that because currently is available only on, let's put it that way, only on Aston Martin SUV, which like only one model. They promised to bring it to other models later on, but and that particular CarPlay version, and again, it's not a version, it's now a separate CarPlay interface, which can put like everything in CarPlay style, like your speed, your I don't know, the RPMs and so on and so on. So it's like the another variation of the CarPlay integration. But most of the vendors which decided to share their comments said that they are not like making vehicles right now. There are a couple of things we know. Again, I'm not asking you to comment on that, but we know that Porsche actually said that they will support eventually. So we're not discussing that. We just know from their public announcements, which were mentioned in the news by Apple and by some other media resources. So let's put CarPlay Ultra aside. Maybe we will talk about that in the future. Maybe not. We'll see. But let's just talk about CarPlay news. So, well, we are recording month after WWDC, and we, like, as the Apple Treats podcast, we should have WWDC episode separate, but we didn't. That's our fault. But let's talk about WWDC announcements with you, and let's start with CarPlay. So they brought a couple of things there, which were unexpected, at least to me. So first of all, let's talk about that video playback. So some vehicles will be able to show video when they are stationary, like when they are not moving, and there probably will be some kind of API which vehicle will, like, I don't know, send to the phone that it's stationary, or somehow it will interact. I'm again not speaking any features you are developing. Do you think like this capability, is it useful, or like being able to play the video on the stationary vehicle?
Yeah, I think it's really nice feature because, for example, especially for electric vehicles, if you're staying and charging, I think it's amazing time to watch some video or to play some games, for example. Yeah, I think it's great improvements from this side.
Yeah, by the way, I actually, I was more thinking about if you like doing the rest of us, but yeah, if you are going somewhere and you need to charge your electric vehicle, and that takes much more time than fueling your tank, and then yeah, that's actually a good finding. Yeah. Well, again, I don't know which vehicles will support that and when, because it definitely needs some integration with the vehicle itself and with the apps which will be providing. Probably we will see some YouTube CarPlay apps or something like that. I'm pretty much sure. Or some streaming services will bring something. But there is another announcement for the CarPlay during WWDC, and that is use of widgets. That was kind of interesting. I mean, they brought widgets to visionOS, so you can like put your widget to your physical wall, and it will only be visible when you wear the device. But it's still like an interesting idea. They some time ago they brought those widgets to your standby mode on your iPhone, like when you put it on the charger and put it horizontally. And so now they are in the car. Again, not speaking of the new features, but just a general development consideration. Like, do you think that will make users do with their CarPlay more? Because I'm pretty much sure currently users use CarPlay for listening to the music or the podcast, and again, that could be Apple Music or some like third-party app, and using for navigation. I don't think there are many other apps being used on a constant basis. Like, again, maybe like vehicle-specific apps, which makes sense. But again, having widgets, do you think that will help users, or it will be again like the feature which will stay unused for the most of the time?
Yeah, so it depends on the context, of course, but in general, I think it's also a big improvement, and I really like this update, and I was super happy to see it. And so in general, yeah, that's great that it's possible to add some widgets in the CarPlay screen, but everything depends on the context and what exactly will be added there. Yeah, and as far as I know that, yeah, there are not so many stuff what you could customize for now. It's first version, but yeah, in general, it's really great also. I really like it.
It's interesting that these widgets are not just a part of the CarPlay Ultra, but rather just a regular CarPlay, which means that if your car supports CarPlay and you update your iPhone to iOS 26, you will have widgets on your vehicle. You don't need a new vehicle for that to use them.
True.
So we'll see how they actually how they will work and how how well users will be using that. Because again, speaking from my experience, I usually have this like the standard dashboard screen with the map and some controls of your music and some other info. As like that's a standard screen. I don't switch to any other screens. What I'm interested in is like how often I will switch to the screen with widgets, and will I be using those much? But we'll see. That's as of now I don't use any beta software on my like primary device, and so I can't like test the widgets on the CarPlay for now. We'll see. But let's maybe talk a little bit about the WWDC announcements in general. So, like it was actually interesting keynote and the whole conference. So they brought a lot of things there. So first of all, everything is now 26, including even Xcode, which is okay. we can live with that. It's not a big deal. But they also brought the liquid glass design. It's not even like the design. It's like the whole experience there, and they are now polishing that from beta to beta. And now it's like what's your I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, is it like proper idea, or like does it have problems? Again, it's just for not speaking about the project, but rather speaking you as a developer.
Okay. Yeah, so I could answer maybe even like a user. So I updated my private phone and tried liquid glass. So it looks amazing. I like it. Really big improvements. But to be honest, it's still a little bit rare, and I see a lot of bugs, unfortunately, because it's still bad. Yeah, but it's okay. It's it's understandable and a little bit expected. In general, it's really great. It's really great updates for UI, and I'm waiting new version when it will be some bugs will be fixed, because sometimes it's really terrible. But in general, great, and apps and the dashboard looks really good. Also I like some. I like some updates also from WWDC. This year, for example, about Bluetooth and accessories, it's also great, and for developers, it's big improvement.
But by that you mean the pairing flow, or
pairing flow.
So it's as I understand, like they want to make the like custom Bluetooth device pairing as smooth as you pair like any Apple accessory. Like when you just have one screen, you press connect and everything like amazingly works essentially. That's and
it's amazing. It's a big improvement.
And that was one of the things which we had a lot, and like a lot of this you had to build a whole interface to pair the device, even like you do that with every device, but every app had their own flow, they had their own UI, and like simplification. That I agree, that's probably will be really beneficial for those who create those devices, because they will be able to compete with Apple's devices more honestly, I would say. So it will be much easier to pair them, and that will be definitely one win for users here. Anything else you remember from the WWDC in terms of like what I don't know, which you liked or disliked?
Of course, maybe Apple Intelligence. That's great, smart tool. I also like it. I tried Siri also in the CarPlay. It's better, much better right now.
That's me. Well, I still won't install the beta, but you make me doubt my decisions now. Yeah, because I use Siri for, like, again, Siri in the car actually makes much more sense than on the iPhone, because you don't
Yeah.
want to tap something on your screen. It's easier to just say something. Well, I know what, and
Yeah.
being able to do more and better understanding will definitely help there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's more or less it in terms of the topics we want. I wanted to discuss with you on this episode, and I would like to ask you: do you have any recommendations or suggestions or anything you would like to say to those who like maybe want to explore CarPlay or maybe want to work with the devices, like any uplifting notes to to those who want to try new things in their development?
Okay, so if you want to build some CarPlay app, so it's easier than you can imagine. So don't afraid, it's really nice, and just try. But if you're talking about some devices, I also highly recommend to make a to see how it works inside, for example, how works Bluetooth Low Energy and MFI devices. That's amazing. And yeah, if somebody needs some instruction, maybe we can share some sources, for example.
So first of all, yeah, we will share your LinkedIn, so people who want to talk with you about these things that will be able to ping you in there and talk about some technical topics. And yeah, we will probably try to share anything which we can find, and that's everything will be in the show notes. This episode is slightly shorter than we did before, but I hope we will see you sometimes into the future, like with some more topics to discuss. And that was really pleasure talking to you. Yes, again, if you want to develop something for CarPlay, go ahead, try. There are a lot of new things there, and like again, the sports apps are now allowed for the CarPlay. And if you have some questions, you can reach Tatyana over LinkedIn and ask her directly. She's willing to talk about that. And for those of you who are listening, watching, please spend a minute or two of your time to give us a review, share, and again, thank you for watching and listening.
Thank you too.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye bye.